Hello, vinyl community and music lovers. This is Andy.
And this is Sunny.
We're here today to do our album exchange. We did things a little different this week. As I had stated in one of my earlier videos, this week, or the past 2 weeks, we've been listening to albums that were kind of blind buys for us. I bought an album solely based on the cover, and she just kind of chose a band that she was kind of interested in. Has heard a few songs. Am I talking too much? She'd heard a few things off from the band from other albums, but chose this album in particular, I guess.
Well, the Jayhawks have been around for a while.
I didn't say what it was.
And I just kind of came across them recently. So
the album she chose was
Rainy Day Music. And I was like, oh, because I like folk rock. And I'm kind of into alternative country right now, so I was excited.
And the album I chose was Steven
Wilson.
It's been a long day. Steven Wilson, The Raven That Refused to Sing, and Other Stories.
Mm-hmm.
I've been listening to this on CD, and I've listened to Sunny's album on the interwebs, because we don't have a physical copy of it. But do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
Rainy Day Music is Jayhawks' 7th of 9 studio albums. It came out in 2003. Like I said, Jayhawks have been around since 1985, and they put out their first album in 1986. They're considered alternative country or alternative rock. I think that kind of sound like Bob Dylan or Graham Parsons a little bit.
I don't think it's like Bob Dylan.
But they're very, very kind of low-key, relaxed. So that's kind of my intro.
Well, let's stay with your album right now. Again, what year did this album come out?
2003.
2003, Rainy Day Music.
Mm-hmm.
7th studio album?
7th of 9. Rainy Day Music fits the album perfectly because it is kind of melancholy. The songs are kind of melancholy and reflective.
Before we get too far into this,
okay.
I'm a Jayhawks fan from way back. She didn't know that I had these CDs.
No.
And when she approached me about doing this Jayhawks album, and I was kind of excited about it because I wasn't familiar with the Rainy Day
and
music album.
And then he listened to it.
Well, hold on.
And he said, why did you pick that one?
So just to show these, the CDs that I have from the Jayhawks are 1992 Hollywood Town Hall, which was my introduction to this band. This is their 3rd album, I think. I've got stuff written down. I just need to look at it. I don't know.
I'm not sure on that.
But this came out in 92, but it was really the album after that one that was really their breakthrough album, Tomorrow the Green Grass. This is the one that had the hit Blue, which they played nonstop when it originally came out. This came out in 1995. And
classic Jayhawks album.
Classic Jayhawks album, in my personal opinion, their best album. Hollywood Town Hall would be their 2nd best, again, my personal opinion. And I also have this one, which is Mockingbird Time, which came out in 2011, which I wasn't crazy about. But we're not here to review this album. We're here to review your album.
So, I'm going to read some of this because I am kind of new to the Jayhawks and I don't have all their names memorized. But Gary Loris is on vocals and he plays guitar. Mark Perlman is bass. Tim O'Regan on drums and Stephen McCarthy on guitar. And they do more than just that, but that's kind of
they pretty
short
much
version.
They pretty much all do some vocal work.
Yeah, they Stephen McCarthy does vocals as well.
Loris, he's the what do you call it? I don't want to call it soprano, but it may be. But he's the one that really, he's the recognizable voice of the Jayhawks that does the higher note music or whatever.
And then on this album, they had some guests, including Bernie Leadon, Jacob Dylan, and Matthew Sweet.
Matthew Sweet.
And I think it was actually Matthew Sweet who did the vocals on kind of my favorite songs, really.
Well, the first song, what is it? Stumble Through the Dark. You can really hear him coming through on that song. And
I don't think that was the song that he did vocals on.
Yeah, he does Stumbling Through the Dark, and he does Is it All the Right Reasons?
Yeah. I think it was All the Right Reasons and Eyes of Mary Jane, and then Stumbling Through the Dark. So there are 14 songs on the album. The album starts out really strong. It kind of goes downhill as you progress. I think the first six or seven.
Before you get into the songs, when you first listened to it, what did you get out of it?
Well, it's kind of a low-key acoustic guitar album. It's relaxing. I feel like this particular album has more of a classic rock bar band kind of vibe.
I felt I was listening to Poco, but which I like Poco. I like Timothy B. Schmidt, I believe, was the vocalist at the time for Poco, who later went on to join the Eagles. It's got a Poco vibe to it, but it's very post Graham Parsons Flying Burrito Brothers. Yeah. Go ahead.
And it's not just, guitar and vocals. They have piano and organ and dulcimer and banjo and all kinds of cool instruments.
They tried really hard. Or did they?
It is a very low-key album. But I love it. I mean,
Do you love it?
I enjoyed listening to it, which is why I picked it out.
For me, this album was painful. It was painful to listen to from beginning to end. I'm sorry. It's 14 songs, and after the first 4 songs, you've pretty much heard the entire album.
I like the first 7.
It kind of falls off. Jayhawks is a band that I'm really familiar with. I love their early stuff, but to me, this album seemed like they were beating a dead horse. It's like they lost interest. Now I believe this is also the last album they put out before they broke up, and then it was maybe 10 years before they put another album out.
Yes.
So
the next album was 2011.
I could feel like some tension in this album. Like the lead singer Gary Loris, it's like he phoned this album in to me. It's
a little forced.
Well, he seemed restrained. He didn't put forth the effort that he's done so greatly on some of the earlier albums. Low key, like you said, that kind of hits the nail on the head. But yeah, after the first 4 songs, I was kind of done with this album. I tried. Like I said, we've had 2 weeks to listen to these, and I've jumped in at track 7 forward just to make sure that I wasn't being biased in my opinion. I try to give every track a chance.
Really, after track 7 though, it's kind of bored.
Yeah. So, you gonna talk about?
But I was just in the mood to listen to this album.
Yeah.
I don't know. My favorite songs were Eyes of Sarah Jane. That was my favorite.
Really?
And I know you don't like it. Stumbling Through the Dark, All the Right Reasons. Really, all of the first 7 tracks, I've listened to them repeatedly.
I liked Stumbling Through the Dark. Tailspin I wanted to like, but there's something
it's a
about
little more peppy and catchy.
there's something about the chorus that I didn't care for, but the verses are pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know. All the Right Reasons was good. Save It for a Rainy Day, which is probably the best song on the album, in my opinion, which was the single for this album. And I can see why they chose it for the single. I mean, it's got a hook. It's got a catch. You know, you listen to it and it's enjoyable. It makes you want to hear more of this album, which is unfortunate that the rest of the album, like I said, they kind of phoned it in. They were kind of like, we'll go ahead. You want to go to songs you didn't like, or?
No, I mean, I think the song that I maybe liked the least was Will I See You in Heaven.
Okay. That's a good pick, and I'll tell you why. Okay, like I said, after the first 4 songs, I don't care about any of the rest of them. The song Will I See You in Heaven, honestly, that could have been such a great song. Lyrically, it's really well written, but the way it's presented, the way Loris sings it, it seems more like he's mad than being sentimental. And it's supposed to be a sad song. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be a song about, you know, though I've lost you, but there's a will I see you in heaven? But he doesn't sound very enthusiastic about it. I didn't care for that song.
So as far as rainy day music goes, do we want to give our ratings together?
Yeah.
Okay, ready?
Hold on. Okay, Jayhawks, Rainy Day Music from 2003, their 7th studio album.
Yes.
You give it
6.
Now see, I don't feel bad now. I give it a 4. I wouldn't buy it. I didn't enjoy it. It was painful. There was one good song on the album. It was painful. It was painful to listen to. It really was. It was bad.
Oh, whatever.
I feel I'm being generous with this number. I really am.
It sold 19,000 copies in the first week it went out.
19,000?
Yes. It was like...
You know who bought those?
People who were...
Jayhawks fans. That were
I think it was...
The 19,000 Jayhawks
like number
fans.
51 on the billboards.
I don't see how.
I think you're being too harsh.
I may be. But you know what? To me, this is the Jayhawks. This is all I need. These 2 albums right here is all I need. So
those are awesome, but I was in the mood for rainy day music, so there you go.
I don't know. Okay. My choice for review, again, was Steven Wilson, The Raven That Refused to Sing, and Other Stories. This album came out in 2013. And it's by Steven Wilson. This is his third solo studio album. Now, before this album, he was the lead singer, guitarist, and songwriter for the band Porcupine Tree. That L.E., Lisa, thank you very much, she's been plugging this band on me, saying, you really need to listen to this band. So, Fear of a Blank Planet is next on my list to acquire by this man. After hearing this. This album only has 6 songs, and let me say something about Steven Wilson. He was born in 1967. He's 50 years old, but if you look at the man, he looks like he's 24. I
thought he was my age.
Well, we're not telling ages here, but I mean, you thought he was your age.
Well, I'm not 24.
Well, you're close.
No.
my young hot wife. Steven Wilson is considered progressive rock / progressive metal, jazz fusion, ambient, alt rock, drone, and post-progressive. This album clocks in at 54 minutes and 3 seconds, and it only contains 6 songs.
And that's because a couple of the songs are super long.
And they're super awesome. Okay. Here's what I want to say about this in a nutshell. If you took King Crimson, Pink Floyd, ELP, Rush, Yes, early Genesis with Peter Gabriel, Tool, and Jethro Tull, and threw them all in a blender.
Oh my goodness.
And ground them up, this is what would come out. This album, from start to finish, in my personal opinion, was amazing. Amazing. It didn't take 3 or 4 listens for me to realize how important this album is to progressive rock. This album is totally effing amazing, in my opinion. What do you have to say?
I'm not quite so enthusiastic. As I've said before, I'm not a progressive rock fan, but this kind of changed my mind. The first week that I listened, well, the first few days, you start out with Luminol, which is 12 minutes long, and a lot of it is just instrumental, and it's awesome.
It's got some of the most badass bass playing you'll ever hear in it.
But it's just instrumental.
But it's well, it's not just instrumental.
So that kind of turned me off a little bit, and I had to give it more of a chance. I had to sit down with headphones and listen to the whole thing. That's the way to listen to this
album with headphones on, because there's a lot going on.
This isn't something that you listen to at work. This is not background music. This is something that you dedicate some time to sit down and just focus on and listen to.
It requires your attention. It really does.
And I couldn't understand everything he was saying, but once I read the lyrics, I liked it even better because the stories are so great. They're kind of sinister, macabre tales, which I love.
Now, saying that, Alan Parsons of Alan Parsons Project, he was co-engineer and co-producer on this album. Now, as many of you who have watched my channel know, I'm a huge Alan Parsons fan. I have a lot of his back catalog, and you can really hear the Parsons influence on this album. Parsons also was engineer and producer on Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, and you can really hear that in this. So,
yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're okay.
All right.
Did you have anything else you
I got a lot to say.
Well, you just want to talk about it?
Well, yeah. I want to talk about the musicians on this album. Steven Wilson is a genius. First and foremost, this man is a genius. These songs are so well put together. Don't you grin like that. These songs are so well put together, and so much thought and effort have gone into each and every track, each and every note. He surrounds himself with the best of the best magicians. They are magicians. Musicians in the business.
You're just so enthusiastic.
Steven Wilson does vocals, keyboards, guitar, bass on the song Holy Drinker, which we'll get into shortly. And he also plays the mellotron. The particular mellotron that he plays on this album is the exact same one used on King Crimson's Court of the Crimson King album, which makes this that much more stellar to me, because this and Court of the Crimson King are bookends for one another as far as I'm concerned. 2 great albums. That's just Steven Wilson. Then you've got Nick Beggs on bass and on Chapman stick. Are you familiar with the Chapman stick?
No.
Chapman stick is a musical instrument that it's a bass, but it also breaks into higher pitched stuff. I don't know. Okay. But it's got 10 to 12 strings on it, and you really have to be masterful to be able to work this thing. And Nick Beggs is one of the best bassmen in the business, and he. If you're not familiar with Nick Beggs or this album, check out the live version of Luminol on YouTube, and it will blow you away. Then we've got guitar maestro Guthrie Govan, who's a huge prog rock guitarist, fusion jazz guitarist in his own right, who come in on this album and plays some of the greatest guitar solos your ears will ever hear. Dave Gilmour of Pink Floyd would be envious of the guitar solo work on this album, and I say that wholeheartedly. Adam Holtzman, who he's the keyboard player. He also plays he plays the Fender Rhodes, Hammond organ, piano, and the Mini Moog. Familiar with the Moog? It's a Moog is a monophonic analog style synthesizer from the 70s.
Oh, okay.
Before electronic music was anything, the Moog was one of the early instruments used to create it. Marco Miniman plays drums and percussion on this album, and he's won so many awards for so many years of being just the greatest prog rock drummer of all time. I know I'm getting excited. And Theo Travis plays flute, saxophone, and clarinet on this album, and he's brilliant. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about the songs on this album. Like I said, there's only 6 songs, but they range in length. The shortest being 5 minutes, and the longest being 12 minutes and 10 seconds. As far as good songs and bad songs on this album, I enjoyed all 6 tracks. If I have, well, as far as picking one that I disliked, I can't. But I can pick the one that I liked least, so I'll do that. The one I liked the least was the song "The Pin Drop."
Me too.
It's a story about a man who murders his wife, and he throws her body in the river. And the song is sung from the viewpoint of the drowning wife singing to her husband who has murdered her. Did you know that?
Well, can I interrupt for just a second?
You sure can.
Okay, something that's really cool is that Steven Wilson has a backstory for each one of these songs. And not only does he have a story, but he wants to share the story with you, which is really cool because a lot of musicians want it to be mysterious. But I don't always pick up on lyrics and meanings of, behind songs, so I like to have the story. And 2 of the songs, Drive Home and The Raven That Refused to Sing, have music videos as well, and they're so good. And they have characters. I don't know if you... There's a reflection.
You can glare off of it.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see that one.
I'll stick some
Okay.
thumbnails on here if they don't show up.
Well, yeah. Each song has a supernatural story, and they're all great, and they're really interesting.
Let's start at the beginning. Let's
Okay.
go with Luminol is the opening track. When it first starts, it's a punch you in the mouth assault of guitar and bass and keyboard, and it's just heavy. And then after about a couple of minutes, it breaks off into this bass solo with just a little bit of lyrics thrown in, and then it goes off into an instrumental that lasts for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then the song actually starts, where it's the tale of the street corner musician or whatever, which is... Go ahead.
Oh, no,
you want to tell your luminol story?
Luminol. Luminol is, I guess it's a chemical that they use at crime scenes that, if you've washed away blood, you can spray the luminol and turn the lights off and it glows blue. I think it glows blue.
Blood and semen and bodily fluids will glow.
I thought it was interesting that the story was about a street corner musician who's there every day, and he's not a great musician. And people just kind of walk by and ignore him, but he continues to show up every day, even though he doesn't get any better. That's just what he enjoys doing. And after he has passed away, the author of the song, which I guess would be Steven Wilson, says he recalls the musician being there even though he's gone, and there are traces of him there.
Right.
Like luminol, you can, you know, remember traces or memories.
It's a whole matter of familiarity. You know, you walk past a certain thing every day for so many years in your life, and one day when it's not there anymore, you're still haunted by the memory of what was once there. Because you're so used to seeing it. We could talk about
this album all day.
You could talk about each of these songs. You could make a separate video for each of these songs and talk about
it. It's a great conversation piece.
Great conversation piece. Luminol. Well, okay. Let me.
We could talk about every story.
We could talk about every story. Let's talk about our favorite song.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Drive Home.
Drive Home. Is that your favorite?
It's my favorite.
It is my favorite as well, and not because of the music video. The music video is good. There, like she said earlier, there's really two songs that they made music videos for.
Drive Home.
Drive
and
Home.
That Refused to Sing.
Exactly. Drive Home. Though the music video is very good and very well done, the story behind it and the guitar. This song sounds so much like an early Pink Floyd song.
Yeah.
It's not even funny. And once you get, the song itself is 7 minutes and 32 seconds. And I'm not exactly sure how far into the song you get, but you're a good 4 minutes into the song before the guitar solo kicks in.
There's this beautiful, haunting guitar solo that just sticks with you after you listen to the song.
It's like something, like I said earlier, you know, I love Pink Floyd. David Gilmour is one of the greatest guitarists that ever lived, but he should be envious of the guitar solo on this song because I can see him playing it when I hear it. It's very emotional and it really grips you. So, like I say, we agreed that The Pin Drop is the song that we liked least.
Not that it's bad.
It's not a bad song.
We had to pick one, so that was just we weren't as fond of the chorus line.
But we can both agree Drive Home is the best song on the album. What about your second favorite?
Well, it would be The Holy Drinker or The Watchmaker. Probably The Holy Drinker.
Really?
For some reason, The Holy Drinker kind of takes me back to some 90s hard rock, just a little bit.
I don't know,
because he gets
it's Alan Parsons. Hard. Alan Parsons plays on the song, and you really get that vibe.
Well, it's you know, about an alcoholic preacher who gets into a drinking game with the devil and he loses.
Yeah, and
so there is a lot of kind of hard music because,
you know, like you said, there's a lot of backstory to each of these songs that you don't hear in the song, but if you go and
he has the lyrics and you can read the lyrics. But then also you can Wikipedia the album, and Steven Wilson gives backstories, or you can read it anywhere on the internet.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to make this video too long, but like she said, we could discuss every song on this album and how much detail and how much effort went into each one.
It's so interesting that we kind of cheated a little bit, to be honest, because we're not supposed to talk about it before we make
That's one of the rules to our videos, is that we don't discuss the songs. But this album is so good, we had to talk about it.
We were so excited, and I wanted to get each other's opinion and feedback that we were like, let's talk about it.
So after much rambling and anticipation as to our rating, enthusiasm, because we could go on all night about this album, and I don't want this video to be like 3 hours long.
We don't want to bore you.
Yeah. So, as far as Steven, I'm going to say one more thing. And, I'm going to say one more thing. Radiohead. Radiohead wishes they could put an album out as good as this. And I say that because I know there's a lot of people that think Radiohead is such a prolific band, and comes out with just such great songs and great albums. You know what? This puts anything that Radiohead has ever done to shame, in my personal opinion. So with that, I give... we want to do them at the same time?
10, are you?
Are we going to do them at the same time?
10.
Are we going to do them at the same time?
Let's see yours first.
Okay. Have you got yours ready? Don't you change it on me. Okay. As far as Stephen Wilson, The Raven That Refused to Sing goes, I give this album a perfect 10.
I knew
10.
it.
This album is a 10. Front to back. I have listened to this album every day for the past 2 weeks and still cannot get enough of it. So that's my rating.
Okay,
you better have a 10 on that card.
Before you criticize me, I just want to say this. Even though it's awesome and it's haunting and I love it and I could talk about it and talk about it, it's not something that I would listen to every day or all the time. I would have to be in the mood for it. I would have to have time to dedicate to it. This is not something I would listen to at work. So just because of that, I gave it an 8.
8? 8?
Yeah.
8? This is a perfect album. There's not a damn thing wrong with this album.
There's nothing wrong with it.
We just sit here for I don't know how long and talk about how awesome this album is, and you're going to give it an 8?
I would only give something a 10 if it was something that I wanted to listen to every day, all the time. And this is not something that I would listen to every day, all the time.
What she meant to say is she gives this album infinity because it is that amazing. We've run out of time, so thank you for watching.
And we'll see you next time.
Peace.